All right. Um, Episode 2, we are back. For those of you who are just listening for the first time, my name's Ryan. I'm the host of the Chroncast. I'm also I don't know what my position is called, the lead guy. I don't know. I run the website and the Twitter, and that's all there really is about me.
Job titles are overrated.
Yep. Alex?
Speaking of job titles, I am Alex Rickman. I am co-host. I am head writer, lead writer, something writer. And I run the Instagram.
I'm Zach Mason. I am here as the podcast producer. I also just basically show up to make it look like these two know a lot more about hockey.
And we appreciate that. We greatly
really
appreciate
do.
that.
It's essential.
So a lot has happened.
Just a little bit.
No, not even a little bit. A lot has happened. What should we start with? I mean, it's the All-Star break right now.
Yeah.
The definitely not pre-scripted NHL fantasy draft took place last night, where the Hughes brothers and noted trip enjoyer Michael Bublé drafted every Canucks representative except for Elias Lindholm. Which,
yeah.
How shocking could that have been, considering they probably already made the jersey when he was traded?
Before we go into this, could I just address something from last week? Or 2 weeks ago?
Yes.
I would like to apologize to a friend of ours and an avid podcast listener, Mr. Maayan Zilbershtein. If you remember, during the end of our last episode, we were talking about the Detroit Lions. We were talking about the personality Dan Campbell has as a coach. We were mentioning some other coach with personality, and we talked about Bruce Boudreau as an example. Maayan is rather upset that as an avid Whitecaps fan, we did not bring up Vancouver Whitecaps head coach Vanni Sartini as an example of this. So I would like to wish Maayan my heartfelt apologies for this. I am terribly sorry such a mistake could have been made, and promise to be better in the future.
Yeah, for those of you who don't watch the Whitecaps, and I'd imagine there's probably a few considering BC Place's attendance.
Yep.
Vanni Sartini is like real life Ted Lasso, except the expectation is that he knows stuff about soccer.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a real character. Anybody who was at the last playoff game had the real thrill of watching him show the double bird as he was kindly escorted off the pitch following
being serenaded.
Was he shown a red?
He was shown a red with just a massive standing ovation from the entire stadium as he was escorted off by security.
Yeah. All right. Anyways, back to hockey. A lot has happened.
Yes, the podcast.
Thankfully, we're at the All-Star break. Canucks play the Hurricanes and the Bruins right after. Those should be a couple of hopefully some spicy games. We are on the road for those. And I think that those are, should the Canucks go on a deep playoff run, those could legitimately look like Cup final previews to me.
Yeah, it's not exactly a calm welcome back from the break. We have some tough opposition going in, but this is a Canucks team that just, I don't need to say it, we feel different from previous seasons. Like, this team looks like a contender, and we're acting like a contender right now, making the big trade to get Elias Lindholm and giving up massive futures for it.
Yeah, so I guess shifting focus towards that Lindholm trade, how does everybody feel about that? We'll start with Alex.
Yeah, so my last article I wrote was about this, so you can check out my thoughts on our website for a bit of a deeper view. Like a lot of fans, there was a bit of sticker shock when it first came in. Like, you were surprised at, okay, well, we're giving this up. Seems like quite a bit, but at the end of the day, I think it was a smart trade to make. Like, I think we need to act like a contender to be a contender. And adding a player like Lindholm really takes our team up a notch. He is the best center on the market. We've got the best center on the market now. The other thing I want to point out is a lot of people were quite upset at the inclusion of Hunter Brzustewicz in this trade because obviously he's been having a really strong season in the OHL and a lot of fans are quite high on his potential. I would question the sustainability of the rate of play he's had this season because as a third-round pick performing as maybe the best offensive defenseman in the OHL, you have to question how long can he keep this up for. So if he does end up falling off a little bit and coming back down to earth with those numbers, this may look like a really good example of selling high from the Canucks front office.
Yeah, I I completely agree. Usually, the thing with OHL defensemen and OHL players in general is they start having their best seasons in the OHL after their draft,
Mhm.
and that doesn't always transition over into guaranteed NHL success. Like,
Mhm.
look at Arshdeep Bains. The Canucks signed him on a PTO, having been, what was it, the second highest scorer in the CHL behind Wyatt Johnston.
Yeah.
Um, and he still hasn't really gotten much of a crack at the show. Albeit he is a bit older than Brustevich is now.
Mm.
But I think when you're thinking about cups now, prospects like Hunter Brustevich, who I'm not sure I'm pronouncing his name right, but close enough.
It's a
Prospects like
complicated
that
one.
who it is prospects like that who have probably a 3-4 year timeline before they're a consistent NHL player. Those are the kind of pieces that you need to move out if you're focusing on success now. And I
Mhm.
really think that I think that's obviously that's what this trade shows. Lindholm is a 1-year player, and it's been reported that the Canucks are fine using him as a rental.
Mhm.
Um, and it's the price you pay to get a top trade bait player like that at the deadline from a division rival. I
Yeah.
think Lindholm could have gone somewhere else for less had, say, the Leafs or the Bruins wanted him. Not that they would necessarily need him, but had an Eastern Conference team or even a Central Division team wanted him, the asking price could have potentially been lower.
Mhm.
Um, but I also think that this Lindholm trade is fantastic for the Canucks because Kuzmenko, as much as every Canucks fan has this affinity for Kuzmenko, because what's not to like about him, right? He's an
Of
enthusiastic
course.
guy, he's a high energy guy, um, and we're gonna miss him. But just under Tocchet's system, things weren't working for him. He plays the style that you can really only afford from a top line winger who's potentially your best goal scorer, and I think he'll have that opportunity in Calgary.
Mhm.
I've talked to some Flames fans. Personally, I think Kuzmenko, with the way Huberdeau is performing, Kuzmenko goes into the lineup with the expectation that he'll be one of, if not the best forward on the Calgary Flames. Um, Keep in mind they did trade their All-Star representative for him. Not that that really has any merit, considering Boone Jenner's an All-Star, but I think Kuzmenko will have that opportunity as a top line winger that he wasn't getting under Tocchet because Tocchet demands more defensive effort than he was
Mhm.
willing to give. So I think swapping him out for a more versatile player who plays a better two-way game is the kind of move that you make when you want to make that deep run.
Yeah, 100%. And I have also seen some reports saying Kuzmenko could be traded from the Flames even before the deadline this year, depending on his performance there and if they can get the value up. I don't know about the legitimacy of that, but something like that for a team in the Flames position where they're clearly trying to hit the rebuild button could be interesting to see. Personally, I would like to see it because I'd rather not be reminded of the fact that we had to send a fan favorite player to a division rival multiple times a season. But really, just it was time to just make a decision with him and get it over with for everyone's best interest. And I think it's good that we finally made the decision to move him out of the team.
Because
Zach, do
even
you have
he
anything to
wasn't.
say? No,
Like
continue.
it definitely was just time because he wasn't playing consistently, and I imagine it's hard to get a rhythm when you play 2 out of every 3 games in the best case scenario. So like, just what am I trying to say? It had to be done, even if it was something that's probably difficult to hear and think about.
Hmm.
Yeah, agreed. I think a lot of Canucks fans didn't like seeing Kuzmenko scratched. Obviously, didn't like seeing him traded. Next memes is in still, I think, a seething rage because of it. And he's not alone. I had to change my phone background. Alex had to change his phone background. I think a lot of Canucks fans are obviously sad to see Kuzmenko go, but it's the same type of hockey decision that, albeit it wasn't fair how it happened, but it's the same type of hockey decision that they made when they fired Bruce Boudreau,
Mm-hmm.
where, yeah, the fans might, love and adore the person who's heading out, but in order to better the team, that change was vital.
Yeah, and you gotta wonder with Kuzmenko, I've heard this talked about a few times, with the fact that Rick Tocchet was scratching him in more or less meaningless regular season games, when it came down to big important games in the playoffs, you can't assume he was going to play. He was probably going to end up in the press box. If he played, it wasn't going to be meaningful minutes. So getting someone like Lindholm, who not only the coach will trust more, but is like one of the best shutdown centers in the league, that'll be a lot more valuable in the playoffs than having Kuzmenko here.
Yeah, and Kuzmenko is a player who can perform in those important games and get those valuable minutes. It's just the role that he had on this Canucks team wasn't one that really enabled him to do that. And without that, he kind of loses his star player flair where he's, responsible for scoring and he's making plays, and his defensive coverage matters less. When he's being used in a depth role, you want two-way players like Elias Lindholm in that role instead of guys like Kuzmenko.
Yeah. And another thing I like about Lindholm specifically as a player is he can immediately slot into Kuzmenko's spot on the power play. He's a right-handed shot with a really good one-timer. So that can give us like an immediate replacement for Kuzmenko's ideal minutes with somebody who will fit the system probably perfectly.
Yeah, I agree. I thought Lindholm was going to end up being out of our range and not the kind of guy that Vancouver would have pursued. I'm glad that I was wrong about that. I do believe I said that in the last podcast. So if anyone here has the receipts, I probably did make a pretty bad take about Lindholm going to the Canucks like a couple of weeks ago. This is why I don't gamble, because when I start making takes that matter, everything goes wrong. I'm always wrong, no matter what, no matter how educated I like to think I am about sports. Every single time things go wrong. So yeah, I think that's all I have to say about the Lindholm trade. Does anyone else have anything they'd like to finish off with?
I may just add one more thing. I just want to talk again about kind of what we gave up and just how impressed I am that we managed to get probably the biggest fish on the market, and we didn't have to lose any of, Tom Wielander or Jonathan Lekkerimäki, but still guys like Aatu Räty and Vasily Podkolzin are still Canucks after getting the biggest fish on the trade market. Just impressive work there from the front office.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's a good segue into the next topic because the front office has put together a few impressive bits of business, and as a result, Patrik Allvin and Jim Rutherford have both been extended.
Great to see.
Yeah.
We talked about Rutherford's extension last time and how an Allvin extension seemed like it was coming along, but it's good to see it finally done so we can just be sure we have the continuity and that they can keep working on this vision they have.
Yeah, I agree. It's nice to see, as a Canucks fan, after all the years of, obviously, I said this last episode, I'll say it again. After all those years of Benning with coaches like Travis Green, Willie Desjardins, just to name a few, it's nice to see a regime that's in charge that fans want to keep around. Fans want extensions. Fans want to see them making moves.
Yeah, it's refreshing that we've hit a point where a GM being extended is something to celebrate rather than, oh God, not more Jim.
Yeah. No, I think it's nice to see a good general manager. I don't know how else to word that. It's nice to see someone earn their extension as opposed to get one handed to them when the entire fan base is screaming at Francesco Aquilini not to do it. And I think keeping Allvin around he's already done a fantastic job. By the end of the season, I think Patrik Allvin has a case for creating the best Canucks team of all time.
If it's not the best, then it's certainly right up there. I mean, we've talked about, not necessarily we, but fans have talked about how Rick Tocchet is probably the favorite for the Jack Adams right now. Allvin needs to be right up there for the Jim Gregory Award. Like, the turnaround this team has had so quickly is just ridiculous.
It's insane. Like,
this does not happen.
6 All-Stars, a Jack Adams coach, a Vezina goaltender.
Yeah.
I would say Hart candidates in Pettersson and Hughes. I don't know if that's far-fetched or not. I would say Hughes certainly. Hughes a Norris candidate as well.
Oh, of course.
I think Makar is the only one who really rivals him, and a team that's on pace for I'm just going to do a little bit of quick math here, but a team that's on pace to finish like close, if not at the top of the league for the third time in league history.
And keeping this in mind with the cap situation he inherited too, managing to pull all this off, because we have been in cap hell for years. And now we're at a point where we can add luxury players.
Which I truthfully do not think I would have seen the day. I thought there was a point last season where I was convinced that we were just going to waste this core of Pettersson, Hughes, Besser, Miller, Demko. I thought we were just going to be an average team.
Yeah.
And
like, it kind of felt like we were going to become what the Sabres or the Senators have become. We're just years and years of endless loop. And, maybe this is the year. No, it's not. Maybe this is the year. No, it's not. Just constantly in that loop of mediocrity.
Yeah. And it goes to show he's obviously prepared for, things like free agency, the trade deadline, when he's bringing in guys who, like, obviously guys like Ian Cole, Carson Soucy, and Philip Roenick, who have completely outperformed expectations, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And just completely reformed a defensive core that was both expensive and ineffective.
Yeah.
And he's fixed special teams, which were a complete nightmare for a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
It's so nice to see a team that can fire on all cylinders compared to what it was a year or 2 years ago.
And just seeing, like, the forethought that seems to be going into these moves, whereas for years it's been just kind of seeming like Benning was kind of flying by the seat of his pants and just seeing what happened when it happened. Now it feels like there's a concrete plan as to how we're going to sustain good play and how we're going to keep going forward.
Yeah, I think, now that I think of it, I think Aquilini has probably wanted both general managers to do the same thing. But I think Allvin has done it with more composure, because at no point did he fully tear down the team, right?
Yeah.
I think both general managers had a pressure on them to create a contending team, and you can't really honestly fault Benning for what allegedly was being told to him by ownership, was that he had to be contending with a team that he couldn't. And I think Allvin has gone into the situation with more composure and a greater understanding of what kind of moves actually have to be made.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's made moves like the Horvat trade that were moves Benning would have probably been afraid to have made and not wanted to have made it, just because of, like, the PR situation and how that would eventually play out for the team. I think Allvin was able to make the team worse with the understanding that it would allow him in the near future to make the team better again.
Yeah. He's just really executed a perfect retool.
Exactly. And I think ownership wanted Benning to do the same thing, and he just wasn't able to under the pressure of the Vancouver sports market.
Yeah, and I think we talked about this last week too, but just having Jim Rutherford there as the president, just having a step between ownership and management, I think has helped allow Allvin to do that. Like, there's a little bit of pressure off him. There's someone else to advocate for the vision of the front office versus the vision of ownership. And especially, like, since the two of them have worked together before and know each other so well, they can work really well as a team to get that done.
Yeah. What else should we talk about? I mean, I think that covers all of the news of the past 2 weeks.
Not much going on with the All-Star break.
Yeah. I mean, Michael Bublé is my early front runner for All-Star MVP.
He has to be.
When it comes to the NHL's marketing, I think they're trying too hard to get celebrities that'll interest non-traditional hockey fans, like people who wouldn't traditionally watch the All-Star game for the hockey. And it ended up with people like Tate McRae and Justin Bieber, who are they seem completely uninterested in anything that's going on. And it's really, really disappointing, because there's a lot of personalities in hockey, and like Paul Bissonnette, for example, and the NHL has completely missed out on them, because they're gunning for they're gunning for that sort of big celebrity involvement that, like, say, the NFL has right now with Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
And because the NFL is seeing a slight, I would say they're seeing a little bit more attention and a little bit more success from the whole Taylor Swift Travis Kelce thing, but
Oh, of
it's
course.
taking the actual fans of the game and just making them mad. And I think the
Mm-hmm.
NHL wants to do the same thing, but doesn't really realize that that's the consequence they have to deal with. And
Yeah,
the
they're
people
trying
that
to
they've picked,
please everyone and pleasing no one.
yeah, and the people that they've picked are just boring.
Yeah.
Like I watched the Thursday draft, and it was a nice concept to have like a fantasy draft like that. But first of all, I thought it was absolutely scripted. I don't think it was like I don't think any of that was like done on the spot.
Yeah.
I think that the celebrities in it were completely uninterested, and I think they've just kind of. It's hard to make All-Star games entertaining. I mean, the Pro Bowl,
Totally.
for example, like there's not
Oh my
really
God.
much you can do about the Pro Bowl. Players don't really want to be there anymore, so it's just kind of it's disappointing. I was excited to see how this fantasy draft went. I think they completely mismanaged it.
Yeah. Because I can remember when I was a kid when they did the big fantasy draft, that was entertaining. To me, at least. But I think All-Star games in general, they're more geared towards the young fans. So now being in my 20s, it's a little bit more, okay, let's just get through this and get back to the season.
Yeah. I
I
mean,
think also,
no, Zach, go
I think
ahead.
also like the ho-humness of it comes, especially in the NFL and NHL, comes from the fact that they're both very contact-heavy sports. So there's not really much emphasis on wanting to go all out. Because
Yeah,
especially if Pedersen or whatever tears his ACL in the All-Star game, he's just lost out on a good $15 million. Like, that's an eye-watering amount of money to lose in a game that's totally meaningless.
And that's why I think the MLB All-Star game is probably the best of the North American sports leagues, because it's, not heavy on contact, guys aren't playing that much, they only play a couple innings, and the guys actually seem to be enjoying themselves and having fun there.
Yeah, I mean, I think the NHL can make their things more entertaining. They just have to take a different angle.
Yeah.
Right? I think personalities like Justin Bieber and Tate McRae, as popular as those people might be, I don't think having their presence, and this might make me sound like Don Cherry, but I don't think having their presence there to appeal to young people when they're just going to sit on, like when Justin Bieber, for example, is just going to sit on the steps the whole time and act like he's like a nonchalant, like Ryan Gosling type character.
Yeah.
That provides no entertainment value for the NHL whatsoever. And yeah.
Like, I don't mind them having celebrities there at all, but get people who actually want to be there. Get people who are going to be able to have some personality, have a good time. Like Michael Bublé. He's put a lot of attention on it because he's been, high on mushrooms and been entertaining throughout this.
Yeah, I guess that's the thing. He's definitely been the most entertaining of the people that are there. I think people like NHL alumni like PK Subban, Henrik Lundqvist, those Paul Bissonnette, those are the kinds of guys that you want as like advertisements for the game per se. Because I think that those are the kind of guys who can actually make things entertaining. They have a sense of humor, they have a personality. They don't just stand there, right? But yeah, that's all I really have to say about the All-Star game. Like, it's not it's more so just a rest for the players halfway through the season, with the exception of the poor guys like Oliver Bjorkstrand, who had to cancel his vacation to California to go spend a weekend in Toronto in February, which for those of you who don't know, I'm from Toronto.
Boo.
I grew up there. Yeah, I know. There's a reason why I go to the University of Victoria now, and it's because I'm looking outside my window and there's blue sky, and it's 10 degrees out, and it's February 2nd.
We all look out our windows in Vancouver now and see lovely, lovely clouds.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with clouds. They're not Toronto clouds.
It's clouds, but it's not snow.
If there are any listeners from Toronto, I apologize, but
I don't.
come on, you know I'm right. Yeah. So I think that ends Canucks specific topics, unless we want to talk about how much baby oil Rick Tocchet's been using to shine his head.
It's been shiny lately.
Yeah, I think it's been
That
shinier
game
than
against
it normally
Toronto, it was
has.
glowing.
Yeah, well, I mean, it might just be the fact that he's at the All-Star game and he might have someone like doing his makeup before games, like to
You got
look
someone with a buffer
glamorous,
out
you know.
there?
Yeah, I mean, Tate McRae, the All-Star team wasn't the only roster she's been building this week. So maybe he's just trying to look extra nice. Maybe he'll, take his shot, take his chance. I apologize, by the way. That was a terrible joke. I'm greatly sorry.
Oh my god.
Yeah. But yeah, no. Rick Tocchet's head has been shiny, but I think that's all we really have to say for Canucks topics. So
It's
if
shiny.
that's the only thing that interests you,
We ended on the most
yeah, it is
important
shiny.
topic.
If that's the only thing that interests,
Yeah.
if that's the only thing that interests you, then I guess you could probably sign off now. Thank you for listening to the first part of the segment. We're gonna move into some other sports stuff. So the Super Bowl is coming up next week.
Yep.
Any thoughts on that? I know we have a Seahawks
Can they
fan
both
in the call.
lose?
He's probably, yeah. I had a feeling that was coming.
I'm cheering for the Chiefs. It's just like I cannot stand the Niners, but oh god, this feels like. So Ryan, you're a Patriots fan. If you
I am
ever
a
wondered
Patriots
how
fan.
we felt about, if we ever wondered how you felt about your team for the last 20 years, think about how you
Yep.
feel about the Chiefs now, and it's that.
Okay, but hear me out. Hear me out.
Okay.
We didn't have a situation where who was like a really big pop star in the 2010s.
Beyonce? Early 2010s,
I
at
mean,
least.
yeah, like okay, we didn't have a
Yeah.
situation where Rob Gronkowski was dating Beyonce and the NFL was using Beyonce for PR. That's where I think the Patriots of that decade are more tolerable than the Chiefs now. The
Well, that's
Patriots
because the
did
coach
not
banned
have.
personality.
He didn't ban it. I mean, he didn't have one himself, but that was also his
Did
personality.
any of the players have one? Apart from Gronk?
Julian Edelman.
He
Has
kind of got
one.
one after he left, after he retired, though, didn't he?
No, he always had one. He always had
Yeah.
one.
Because I know Brady,
Vince
you could
Wilfork.
notice the strong difference between New England Brady and Florida man Brady.
Vince Wilfork, the greatest Patriot of all time, definitely had
Barbecue
a
man.
personality. Barbecue man. I understand that there's no video of this, otherwise I would run to my closet and pull out my Wilfork jersey.
We have the video on the call here, and I can just see Zach's confused expression at me calling Vince Wilfork Barbecue Man.
Um,
Can you tell who the casual of the
people who
group
know
is yet?
people who know Vince Wilfork will know he's Barbecue Man.
If you know, you know.
Yeah. No, I think that Patriots team, the difference between that Patriots team and this Chiefs team is okay. Tom Brady's brother isn't an attention-thirsty TikToker. Gisele Bündchen was not nearly as crazy as Brittany Mahomes, even though she did divorce Tom for coming out of retirement after saying he was going to retire to spend more time with his family, which is honestly valid. I don't blame her for that. I would probably
He did
not be happy about that either.
He did math homework twice and was like, I'm going to go get hit in the head more.
Yeah. Yeah. Had to change one diaper. He's like, I'm going to go back to football.
You know what? I think I can take a few more hits.
Yeah, just a few. I mean, he wasn't taking that many anyways for the Patriots. We had a pretty good O-line.
And the Bucks too.
Yeah. And like worst of all, we never had a Travis Kelce Taylor Swift relationship where if you didn't believe in the script, come back to this when Travis Kelce proposes to Taylor Swift on the 50-yard line after either the Niners win and it's like, a silver lining, or the Chiefs win and it's like a big romantic reveal. Because
It'll
they've
be
been
after the
dating for
Chiefs
4
comeback
months.
win.
Yeah, but yeah, because they have been dating for like 4 months, but they're A-list celebrities, so marriage is really just a title for them. Like it's nothing more than a like tax break, um, and a joint bank account.
That
Um,
prenup is going to be eye-watering.
yeah, oh man, that prenup is gonna go. It's gonna be crazy. Hopefully, Travis takes half her carbon footprint though. That'll help.
Travis gets the plane.
No, Travis just keeps her in Kansas City more often, so she doesn't have to go around destroying the planet for mediocre concerts.
Hi, everybody. Unfortunately, Ryan Gurevitz is a silly little boy, so he decides to share his address in this little bit of silence I'm talking over. So sorry for the sudden cut.
I don't know why I just doxed myself, but it's fine. We don't get listeners anyways.
No, we have like 4 of them, and we're related to most of them.
Yeah, Zach, is there a way for you to just like censor that part?
I can try.
Okay, good enough. Um, what else? There's a lot of Premier League happening this weekend, isn't there? There's one game in
There-
particular, a good old
The Cronflict.
conflict. My Arsenal are taking on Alex's
The Mighty Reds.
Liverpool FC,
Liverpool.
the Mighty Reds, and then the Mightier Reds. Well, the Mightier Gunners. I'm excited for that, but the historically these games have not been great for us. So
I'm
I'm
still
expecting
just
I'm
mourning.
expecting the worst.
I'm still just mourning Jurgen, but it seems like the squad isn't doing that, which really is the best case scenario here. Like
Yeah,
that
well, I
Chelsea
mean,
game, they just looked incredible. They're motivated for him.
yeah, they want to win him a league in his last year.
They want to send him out on top. They want to get. I don't think they just want to win him the league. They want to get him a sort of quadruple. Calling it a sort of quadruple because I don't know if you can count a Europa League as a quadruple.
The City quadruple.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Um,
Shut up, City
what
fan.
else? Post Liverpool Klopp, what's he gonna do? Is he gonna manage the Whitecaps?
Well, he's going to take a year off and then do it. He said the year off, and I think he'll hold to that. I don't really know. Realistically, I think the Germany job seems like a likely landing place for him. They've been trying to get him for years, even while he's been managing Liverpool, so I do think
Yeah,
he'll end up with the national team, but I really wonder what Liverpool after Klopp.
yeah. Hopefully it's not gonna be as good as the Klopp Liverpool era.
I mean, I don't think
Yeah,
anything is. He's one of the greatest managers in Liverpool history. Like I would probably have him only behind Paisley and Shankly in terms of Liverpool managers.
yeah.
So it's gonna be weird. At least I'm hoping we can end up with Xabi Alonso in his place, but don't know
Yeah,
how
I
that's
mean,
gonna go.
well, watch it be Xavi, just from Barcelona now that he's leaving too.
Someone was just
Um,
dyslexic and got the wrong name.
Yeah, pretty much. Um, ugh, slow day today. I had 2 midterms and now I have to come and record a podcast with you bums.
Mean.
Yeah, mean,
Accurate,
whatever.
though.
No, it's okay. I like this stuff, even though I don't get any
Yeah.
publicity and I also don't get any money. It's fine.
At some point, we
Um,
might get a little bit of publicity and money. Maybe.
yeah. Ooh, this is a fun topic to talk about. Um, Lewis Hamilton is headed to Ferrari. I know absolutely nothing about F1, so we're going to move on from that one and we're going to talk about the Whitecaps.
Are we?
Yeah, we are going to talk about the Whitecaps because they have a Champions League game next week.
Oh yeah, the Champions League friendly.
Yeah, the Champions League friendly from Starlight Stadium. If anyone here wants to know about how the MLS trying to grow the game is going, Inter Miami, Leo Messi's team just lost 6-0 in a friendly to Al Nasser of the Saudi Pro League. Which it is a preseason friendly against a mid-season form team, but at the same time, having an MLS team that's that loaded, that's looking like they have the potential to be a good team in MLS this year. Seeing them lose that humiliatingly regardless of the context. Not ideal.
Yeah, it's the kind of
And
thing where in reality it may not matter, but court of public opinion, that game matters, and it's just not a good showing for the league to have one of your quote-unquote premier teams lose that badly in that public of a forum.
yeah, I mean, they're the MLS poster boys.
Yeah.
The
It's
way
them and
they're
LAFC.
treated is like, yeah, the way they're treated is comparable to the NHL's treatment of the Leafs and the Rangers,
Mhm.
and and the NFL's treatment of Taylor Swift and the Kansas City Chiefs. And so just seeing them get humiliated like that is not ideal. And speaking of humiliating, the BC Home and Garden Show is next Wednesday. And this is taking place at where, Alex? Where
BC
is it
Place
taking
Stadium,
place?
home of the Vancouver Whitecaps.
And what else is happening on Wednesday, February the 7th,
The
involving the
Vancouver
Vancouver Whitecaps?
Whitecaps. The Vancouver Whitecaps will take on Tigres in a Champions League game and have been temporarily evicted.
So, just to show the state of the MLS currently, yes, it's a growing league. Yes, the talent is getting better, but they're still losing out on very, very important fixtures in stadiums where the teams involved are the top tenants in favor of the BC Home and Garden Show. And
I
because the
believe the
BC
same
Home and
thing
Garden
nearly
Show,
happened for the Whitecaps home opener last season. I'd just like to butt in here.
yeah, I wouldn't doubt it. I can't confirm that, but yeah, again, I would not doubt that.
Yeah.
So because this is a CONCACAF, which is the governing board for Central and North American football, because this is a CONCACAF tournament and they can't play at BC Place, the closest stadium that has been approved for CONCACAF play is Starlight Stadium in Langford, British Columbia, which is half an hour away from downtown Victoria on Vancouver Island, which is an hour and a half ferry from Tawasin, which is a 40-minute drive from Vancouver. So for the Whitecaps, this is probably a 3-hour, 4-hour travel day just to play a home game.
I actually, I think the day this was
Starlight.
announced, I believe the day this was announced, I did some math. I think at the time I did it was about noon on a Wednesday, I think, so it's obviously on a scale different, but I believe from my house in North Vancouver to Starlight Stadium was about 3 hours and 20 minutes. From the exact same starting spot to Lumen Field in Seattle, Washington, I believe was 3 hours and 10 minutes.
Oh my god.
So I don't know what would be more embarrassing. The fact that they could have played this in their rival Seattle Sounders home stadium and it be the same travel distance as the 6,000 seat multi-purpose stadium that they are using it for, that is used by Pacific FC of the Canadian Premier League, Rugby Canada for various events, including Pacific Pride home games, and the West Shore Rebels junior Canadian football team, which I have multiple friends who play for.
Wow.
Yeah, and to make it worse, if you are a rugby player and you play in the BC League, and say you live on the mainland or up island, if you have a game against the Pacific Pride, this is the stadium you're using, meaning there are rugby players who pay to play that will be using the same field as a professional soccer game in a Champions League matchup.
Ryan Gold will be playing a continental competition on the same field that players who basically play beer league rugby use.
I
At least
would not
pay for
call.
rugby.
I wouldn't call BC Premier League.
Beer league's a strong term.
Beer league is a strong term. There's a lot of guys in the BC Prem who have played like very, very high levels. Like Capilano RFC just signed someone who has, I believe, 60 plus appearances in Super Rugby, which is a professional league in New Zealand and Australia. That is responsible for hosting a lot of the best rugby players in the world. But nonetheless, it costs, I think, $600 a season in league fees to play for Castaway Wanderers Premier League club, which is that's the club I play for. So
Mhm.
it costs about that, and I would get to, and I could play at Starlight Stadium. I could play on the same field as Ryan Gauld and the Vancouver Whitecaps of MLS, the same league that Leo Messi plays in. So yeah, that just about sums up the state of MLS right now.
Can you just imagine the scenes if, like, somehow we ended up with another incident that caused us to have to play at Starlight again, and we had Miami in the draw? Now Leo Messi has to play it. I know that could have happened first round, but, like, if something weird happens and we end up having to play at Starlight against Messi.
So to put that into perspective, like, let's just put this into perspective here. Let's say the Emirates Stadium is hosting an Arctic Monkeys concert on February 4th, Saturday, February 4th, 2024.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, no. Sunday, February 4th, 2024. Sorry. This would mean that... What would this mean? This would be the equivalent of that game being moved and played at Leyton Orient, a third...
Yeah.
A league... They're a League 2 team? League 1?
League 1 or League 2?
Something like that. So yeah, that's
My God.
Yeah, my God. I haven't got anything else I really want to talk about. I mean, we've apologized to Maayan Zilbershtein.
Check out the Canadian Soccer Source podcast, by the way. That's his podcast.
Yeah, shout out them. They're just this, but with a worse sport.
And worse mics.
Yeah, that's debatable. I guess the Six Nations are on. I'm not really going to go too deep into that because neither of the people on this call can name 3 rugby players, I think.
Ooh, let's see if I can. Okay.
John Rugby.
Do they have to be active?
Yes. You're not allowed to name people from the movie Invictus.
Bowden Barrett.
Yep.
Antoine Dupont.
Yep.
Jordy Barrett.
Name someone who isn't a Barrett brother for the third one.
Josiah Mora.
Yeah, correct. Castaway
Canadian
Wanderers
rugby
legend, by the way. Shout out JoJo.
Canada Sevens legend.
Canada Sevens legend and a teammate of mine for approximately 2 months.
Yeah. Can I pose a question to Zach?
Yes, you can.
Zach, our resident Lewis Hamilton fan. What do you make of the news about Lewis Hamilton leaving Mercedes for Ferrari?
It's, I guess in a word, it's strange because like, you'd always hear. So for those who don't know, in Formula One, like Ferrari is the most successful all-time,
kind of the most prestigious team.
Yeah, like most successful. They're like in baseball, they're the Yankees. In hockey, they're like the Canadians. In football, they're like Real Madrid. Like if you play and win there's almost a lot more of a prestige that comes with it. The issue is that for, let's say, 20 of the last 25 years, they've been a mess. So it'll be very intriguing to see if getting like a top class driver, because I know I'm probably a tad biased, but I feel like I don't know if you can really name like 5 Formula One drivers ever better than Lewis Hamilton.
Yeah, totally. And then
I'm gonna try and name 5 Formula One drivers on the same theme as Alex naming 3 rugby players.
All right, let's go.
They don't have to be better than Lewis Hamilton, but for the sake of this, they all are. Okay, so we'll start with Logan Sargent.
Definitely better than Hamilton.
And then we'll go to Checo Perez.
Yep.
We're not going to do Max Verstappen because he's not better than Lewis Hamilton. We're going to go to... who's the Canadian one?
There's 2 in recent years.
Oh, God. Okay,
I have a t-shirt for one of them.
He's not Canadian, but Fernando Alonso, Oscar Piastri.
Okay, one more.
One more. I'm trying to think. I want to name it Lance Stroll.
There you go. That's one of the Canadians.
Let's go.
Yeah, it's always been intriguing to hear, going back to the Ferrari maneuver. It's always been interesting to see it actually happen.
Yeah.
Because it's always been one of those things that's like a strange whisper. Like, oh, at the end of Hamilton's contract with Mercedes, he's going to Ferrari.
Yeah, sure.
But like, It's
Somebody
like
stood up in one of my lectures yesterday and announced it to everybody.
Honestly, I don't blame them, because as an F1 fan, this is kind of the what?
Yeah.
Like, this would be like seeing the Canucks had just traded Pedersen out of nowhere.
I mean, when Kuzmenko got traded, I fell to my knees in the middle of the Cove, which is the UVic cafeteria.
That's the only appropriate reaction.
Yep. And someone looked at me and immediately said, Kuzmenko? Like,
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah. I think we're getting into the section of the podcast where it just becomes rambling.
AKA the best part.
So without further, the best part, but also not the best part, because we only have a certain amount of time that we should be yapping for before people get bored and disappear. So, barring any objections, I would like to wrap this up. Unless anyone else, this is the final chance to say anything else you have to say.
One final question for Zach on the Hamilton thing, and then I'm good to wrap it up.
Go ahead.
Will you, Zachary Mason, be a Ferrari fan now because of your driver?
I don't know if I have the heart for that, to be honest.
I do not blame you.
Yeah.
They are a tire fire.
Mm-hmm. I don't. It's hard
Tire
to watch.
fires are bad in racing. You want your tires to be like together and moving.
Their main issue is that their pit crew can't count to 4, so they try to give the driver 3 tires a lot of the time. Which,
yeah,
I'm not necessarily an expert on cars, but generally they don't drive if you only have 3 of them.
There are exceptions to the rule, of
Yeah,
course.
you do need 4 wheels to race. It is kind of tough to race.
It is
without
generally rather important to be able to move.
Yeah. And not just move, but also move in the preferred direction around the track.
At the preferred speed.
It's kind of important for, like the really good competitive teams like Red Bull, Ferrari, to have things like steering wheels on their car.
Generally you would want one of those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Christ. Okay. I think it's best that
we need to wrap this up.
Yeah. This is definitely getting a little bit
ramble
unnecessary. Yeah. Ramble on. And now the time is now. Sing my song.
Okay, we're singing. We need to stop.
No. They Led Zeppelin will also copyright us if I actually play us out with like an actual song. So let's not do that. Let's just
not get this taken down after 2 episodes.
Right. If you're still here, why? But
congratulations.
Congratulations. I'm sorry for things that I've that have happened in the last 5 minutes. And I also respect you for putting up with it. This is why this is why it's so hard to coordinate, because we know this is going to happen.
Just let it happen.
Without anything else to say, I will say thank you all for listening, and just, be on the lookout for the next episode. It should be soon.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.